The giants described in the Bible have always stirred mystery and fascination, even among those unfamiliar with the scriptures of the Old Testament. These colossal beings who once walked the earth remain an enigmatic presence woven through ancient records. Yet what few realize is that these giants did not belong to a single race. There were distinct tribes and lineages, each descending from the Nephilim, hybrid beings born from the union of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Each race carried unique traits and played vital roles in biblical history. In this video, we will explore the ancient records and uncover who these mysterious post-flood giant races mentioned in the scriptures truly were. Prepare to uncover hidden truths that few have ever known. After the cataclysm of the Great Flood, the book of Genesis, chapter 6, presents one of the most mysterious and captivating passages in all of Scripture: the appearance of the giants. The sacred text describes the sons of God, who, upon seeing the beauty of the daughters of men, took them as wives, creating a hybrid lineage of beings known as the Nephilim. These giants, immense in size and strength, walked the earth before the flood, but mysteriously reappeared after it. This raises the ancient question: who were these sons of God mentioned in Genesis? The answer lies in the Hebrew term Bene ha-Elohim, which in Aramaic can be translated as Ba Elohim. Both expressions are often associated with celestial beings, angels, suggesting that these giants were not merely humans of great stature, but a hybrid race born from the forbidden union between fallen angels and mortal women. These angels, known as the Watchers, abandoned their divine posts and, corrupted by desire, sought to interact with humanity in unholy ways. The belief that the giants were direct descendants of these fallen beings places them not only as physical titans, but as corrupted entities emerging from the spiritual chaos that defied heaven itself. The biblical record reveals that before the flood, these creatures multiplied in number and strength, spreading terror, corruption, and violence across the world. They became a defining part of the chaos that, according to Scripture, led to divine judgment and the great flood that cleansed the earth. But the mystery remains: how did these beings return after the flood? The answer is far from unanimous. Many scholars suggest that although the original Nephilim were destroyed, the fallen angels continued to influence humanity. Their presence persisted through disguised forms, infiltrating civilizations and spawning new generations of Nephilim. This ongoing demonic influence, many believe, gave rise to renewed corruption and spiritual decay across the ancient world. Historical and biblical sources even link these dark forces to pagan cults, where they manifested through priestesses devoted to false gods. The Bible repeatedly warns that these so-called gods were not mere inventions of man, but demonic entities in disguise, deceivers seeking worship and power through idolatry. This phenomenon did not vanish with the Old Testament. In the days of Moses and Aaron before Pharaoh, the magicians of Egypt performed supernatural feats, turning staffs into serpents. These acts, more than illusion, revealed the presence of dark forces working through them, showing that humanity's contact with the demonic realm continued to shape its destiny. The crucial realization here is that although many dismiss these accounts as myth or legend, the evidence suggests otherwise. These entities, unseen yet active, may still influence our world in subtle and powerful ways. The presence of the Nephilim, both before and after the flood, goes far beyond tales of towering figures. It reflects how supernatural forces can intervene in human history, silently, yet profoundly. The giants were not merely beings of immense size. They were the visible manifestation of celestial rebellion, the living symbols of corruption born from fallen angels uniting with humankind to create a hybrid race of dangerous power. And somehow their legacy endured beyond the flood. The judgment of the waters was not their end, but merely an interruption. Soon, a new generation of giants arose, spreading across the lands of the Middle East and beyond. The Bible describes them as mighty warriors, formidable in battle, some establishing kingdoms and fortresses that became threats to entire nations, including Israel itself. Scripture reveals that at least 5 races of giants inhabited the vast regions stretching from the Levant to Mesopotamia, with strongholds even in ancient Egypt. Their descendants spread across lands that now include Israel, Iraq, Syria, and neighboring territories, founding fortified cities and becoming nearly invincible foes to any who dared challenge them. One of the most striking accounts appears in Numbers, chapter 13, when Israelite spies entered the land of Canaan and encountered the descendants of Enoch, one of the most feared giant tribes. They described them as beings so enormous and terrifying that the Israelites felt like grasshoppers beside them. This passage not only highlights their colossal size and strength, but reveals the psychological fear they instilled, so great that it nearly caused the Israelites to abandon their conquest of the Promised Land. The text further emphasizes the fortified cities of the Canaanites, guarded by these supernatural giants, making any attempt at invasion almost impossible. Their mere presence generated dread and despair among the Hebrews. These giants were not just physical adversaries. They were embodiments of the deeper spiritual war between divine and corrupt forces, symbols of rebellion against God's order. Their existence shows that the struggle for the Promised Land was not merely territorial, but spiritual, a battle for divine sovereignty over humanity itself. In the next segment, we will continue uncovering the 5 races of giants mentioned in Scripture, exploring their origins, the meanings behind their ancient names, and the deeper spiritual significance hidden within their stories. Each colossal tribe carried a legacy that extended far beyond their immense stature, reflecting cosmic forces and supernatural influences that continue to challenge human understanding. The first and perhaps most remarkable race of giants mentioned in the Scriptures is the Rephaim. These colossal beings stand among the most mysterious and feared figures in biblical history, often linked to the realm of the dead. The name Rapha, the singular of Rephaim, carries profound meaning, suggesting a connection with the afterlife. In both Hebrew and Phoenician, Rephaim does not simply describe giants. It refers to entities that dwell on the threshold between life and death, like wandering spirits crossing the veil of the physical world. But why did the ancients see the Rephaim this way? The answer traces back to the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event that, according to scripture and ancient tradition, wiped out the giants from the earth. These beings, who had multiplied and spread terror, were purged by divine waters. Yet after the flood subsided, they mysteriously reappeared. How could this be? Ancient accounts reveal that the fallen angels, powerful beings who rebelled against God, continued to interact with humanity. These entities, often worshipped as gods, once again united with mortal women, giving rise to a new generation of giants and continuing the Nephilim bloodline. The stature of the Rephaim defied all human conceptions of greatness. They were titans of truly supernatural proportions. One of the greatest examples of this race is Og, king of Bashan, whose immense size astonished even ancient chroniclers. It is said Og measured around 15.4 feet tall and nearly 6.6 feet wide, a living mountain of flesh and bone. Many others of the Rephaim shared these immense proportions, suggesting a consistent physical stature that made them universally feared among neighboring peoples. The second race of giants to roam Canaan and beyond were the Anakim, descendants of Enoch. Like the Rephaim, they were immense and powerful. But their name reveals an even deeper mystery. Enoch, or Anakim, from ancient Sumerian roots, means sons of those who fell from the sky, shedding light on their celestial origins. This meaning implies that the Anakim were not mere warriors, but direct descendants of divine beings, fallen angels or pagan gods, who descended to earth and defied the laws of heaven. Their supernatural heritage gave them power, dominion, and an unsettling authority over humankind. Biblical accounts describe the Anakim as towering figures, exceeding ordinary human height by 6 to 10 feet, with some reaching between 11.5 and 14.4 feet tall, rivaling even the Rephaim in sheer magnitude. Their strength was legendary, and their aura of otherworldly power made them almost invincible. Yet behind their physical might lay a darker truth. They were living symbols of rebellion against divine order. The Anakim embodied the defiance of celestial authority, serving as constant reminders that evil forces continued to lurk among humanity, seeking to corrupt God's creation. If the Anakim inspired fear through supernatural power and divine descent, there was yet another race that brought sheer terror to the lands of the Middle East, the Emim. The scriptures mention them in Deuteronomy 2:10-11. The Emim had dwelt there, a great and numerous people as tall as the Anakim. This passage reveals that the Emim matched the Anakim in both stature and might, standing perhaps over 13 feet tall and possibly rivaling the Rephaim themselves. The name Emim, according to the Rabbi Rashi, translates as fearsome or monstrous, reflecting both their terrifying appearance and the psychological dread they inspired among ancient civilizations. Yet what truly set the Emim apart was not merely their size, but their monstrous roar. The historian Flavius Josephus describes their voice as so thunderous it could be compared to the roar of a lion, freezing even the bravest warriors in terror. Their grotesque features, distorted and brutal, mirrored the horror they spread, making them seem less like men and more like beasts of chaos. While the Anakim were feared for their celestial lineage and the Rephaim for their spectral nature, the Emim stood out as living nightmares, monsters whose very presence struck fear into the hearts of nations. They symbolized the persistence of evil, not only in their physical dominance, but in their ability to terrorize the soul itself. The fourth race of giants that ravaged the Middle East were the Zuzim. Though less renowned than the Emim or Anakim, ancient records confirm that they too belonged to the colossal bloodlines that shaped early history. The name Zuzim, derived from Aramaic, means strong, rigid, or robust, a fitting description for beings of immense power. Reports describe the Zuzim as standing between 9.8 and 13.5 feet tall, moving across the land with overwhelming force. Like the others, they were part of the mysterious lineage of hybrid beings whose existence blurred the boundary between heaven and earth, remnants of a supernatural past that continued to haunt the human world. The presence of the Zuzim, though less documented than that of the Anakim or the Emim, is mentioned in Genesis 14, where they appear in the midst of a great war led by Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, against various tribes of the region. During this campaign, Chedorlaomer waged a devastating assault that struck fear across the land, and the Zuzim, inhabitants of the territory of Ashtaroth-Karnaim, became one of his many victims. Their slaughter marked one of several tragic episodes in the long-standing conflict between humans and giants, signaling the decline of their dominance in the ancient world. This defeat was not an isolated event, but part of a larger struggle between mankind and supernatural entities, symbolizing a rare but fleeting human triumph over colossal beings. Yet it also left open the question of how deeply these supernatural forces continued to influence early civilizations and shape their destinies. In ancient traditions, especially within the scriptures, the giants were never portrayed as mere physical marvels or warriors of immense strength. They represented something far greater, a manifestation of cosmic forces that defied both the natural and spiritual laws established by God. Each race of giants, from the Rephaim to the Zuzim, carried unique traits that symbolized different aspects of corruption, rebellion, and destruction that had seeped into the world after the flood. Even as their tribes were defeated and their bloodlines faded into extinction, their memory endured, echoing through generations as a warning that supernatural influences were still at work, shaping human destiny in mysterious and often terrifying ways. The final race of giants mentioned in the Old Testament is one of the most mysterious and least known, the Zamzummim. These giants, who dwelled east of the Jordan River, represented the last remnants of the great lineages of colossal beings that had once dominated vast territories across the Middle East. Though only briefly referenced in Scripture, their story is wrapped in deep mystery, with few details preserved about their origins or downfall. Like the Emim and the Zuzim, the Zamzummim were described as towering figures of immense strength, ancient records suggesting they stood between 13.1 and 14.8 feet tall, placing them among the largest of all known giant tribes. They commanded immense power over their lands, ruling through fear and dominance, and were regarded as one of the last of the great Titan lineages before their eventual extinction. The Zamzummim were formidable warriors whose presence posed a constant threat to neighboring peoples. They controlled strategic territories and established powerful dominions over surrounding tribes. Yet, as in all tales of the giants, history eventually turned against them. The Bible recounts how the Ammonites, descendants of Lot, entered into direct conflict with the Zamzummim for the fertile lands east of the Jordan. In the ensuing battle, the Ammonites prevailed, defeating the giants and claiming their lands, effectively erasing their memory from history. This victory was not just a territorial conquest, but a symbolic one, marking the final transition from the age of supernatural dominion to an era ruled by humankind. With the fall of the Zamzummim, humanity assumed control over the land, signaling the close of the age of giants and the dawn of civilization as we know it. Many scholars propose that the Zamzummim were a sub-branch of the Rephaim, another race of giants mentioned in the Bible. If true, this would suggest that their dominion extended beyond the Jordan, possibly reaching into Syria and regions of modern-day Israel. This theory paints a picture of an ancient Middle East, once dominated by colossal beings, whose power slowly waned as human tribes rose to prominence. The Zamzummim may have been the last echoes of this forgotten era, giants who hunted and were hunted until they vanished completely. Some scholars also point to the linguistic root of their name. In Hebrew, Zamzummim means plotters or conspirators, implying that these beings were not only physically powerful, but also cunning and strategic, forming dark alliances and deceptive schemes. This interpretation hints that their downfall may not have come solely from the Ammonites' strength, but also from the internal betrayals and political manipulations that weakened them from within. With the destruction of the Zamzummim by the Ammonites, one of the final great lineages of giants vanished from the biblical world, yet their story remains a powerful reflection of the eternal conflict between mankind and the supernatural. These wars were not just battles of flesh and blood. They were manifestations of a deeper spiritual war for dominion over the earth. The extinction of the Zamzummim and other giant races marked the end of that ancient order, but their legacy endures. To this day, the legends of these colossal beings continue to stir human imagination, inspiring scholars, theologians, and seekers of hidden truths to uncover their mysterious origins. Though erased from the living world, the giants' memory lives on, in myths, in scriptures, and in the collective consciousness of humankind. They remind us that from the dawn of time, the battle between man and the powers beyond has never truly ceased. And even though these beings have long vanished from the earth, their shadow still lingers in the echoes of ancient memory. May God bless you, and see you soon.